Here is the grid. It's Alexandros Murafkani on reverse grid pole alongside Spanners. Then it's Rob de Vries and David Hatton on the second row of the grid. Gregoire Gomez, great position for him in fifth alongside Miguel Morland. Then comes John Cox and Alex Jeansy Van Gien. Danny Henney looking to make amends for the F4 race and Daniel Cook completing the top 10. Then come our front runners from the F4 race, Jose Coy and Tim Ellis on the sixth row of the grid, alongside Alex Smith and Stephen Williams, with Luke Power and Sam Harper, James Gill, and then our top three from the last race, Kyle Power, Alexander Dubbelsberger and Brad Philpott in 20th position as the red lights are on. Now we're about to get underway for the reverse grid race. It's lights out now. Murafkani not getting the best of starts. The Spanish draws up alongside him. A couple of cars having to take to the escape road, spearing across the track. That looks like Jeansy in strife. He's caused some problems there. Kyle Power narrowly avoiding the incident, but Murafkani continues to lead ahead of Spanners, and then David Hatton in third position ahead of Gomez, who's picked up a spot.
Yes, a bit of an incident there at the start. Of course, stepping up to a more higher powered car. These cars are a bit more sensitive on the throttle than the F4. And we've just seen that at the start here as we see Alexandros get away nice and cleanly there ahead of Spanners and David in P2 and P3 as Greg is lining up a move already here on the oval. Once again, these cars are a little bit more powerful, of course, than the F4 and should be able to see more moves happening around the outside here. But Greg just backs out and doesn't want to lose ground, too much ground, as he was on the outside there. And David survives for the remainder of this lap thus far. But yeah, a bit of a more action-packed start of this race, as to be expected as well with the reverse grid order. It always provides drama. With our first lap completed, it's Alexandros maintaining the lead from Spanners with David and Greg close behind, with Danny Henney also in fifth, who will be eyeing up Greg very shortly. So Greg needs to get this move done pretty sooner rather than later.
Yeah, great first lap for Danny Henney, made up 4 positions there into fifth and very quickly closing in on the 4-car battle for the lead. Gomez going for an unconventional move here into turns 5 and 6, and David not fighting that one at all. Of course, a former champion from the Formula Renault 2-litre days. Hasn't been able to recreate those heydays in recent seasons, and the reigning champion finds his way through into third position, now setting his sight on Spanners as Danny Henney looks to make a move, and David is just inviting him through. But we're about to go 3 wide for the lead of the race. Meanwhile, Spanners is on the inside, makes contact there with Murafkani as they go through the bus stop. Gomez and Henney arriving on the scene as well. Gomez has gone through. He can't use the apron. He has to keep one wheel on the top side. Look at these 4 cars. Nothing separating them as they roar towards the final chicane once again. And Henney could have all of them. He doesn't quite, but he gets up the inside of Gomez, crucially into third place. Still side by side between Spanners and Murafkani. Look like they bang wheels there. Henney's going to try and go up the inside. He can't do it. Gomez coming back at him as well. This is brilliant racing in the opening stages of this reverse grid race, and Spanners finally can get the lead. Amazing stuff.
Go on, Spanners, up there. I really thought that was going to end up in a lot of mechanical parts spread out across the track. Of course, Danny and Greg going side by side here, but they also need to think about the bigger picture here, because I don't know if they're aware, but Brad Philpott was caught up in that opening melee at the start of this race. So, of course, leading the overall standings at the moment with his win at the start of this evening. These two need to ensure that they at least make it to the end, but of course no love lost between these two. Greg is strong in this car, but Danny, as we mentioned earlier on, is a former Missed Apex champion former Missed Apex champion in this exact car, so he feels confident. He's back in his element. But we finish our third lap with the front 4 still intact somehow, but great driving from Spanners up front as he is leading from the front.
9/10 of a second separates the top 4 at the start of this 4th tour, and Gomez is right on the back of Murafkani. Spanners doing the fastest lap of the race there and pulling his advantage to just half a second though. And you see Gomez, because he got so close, he ended up compromising his run through the first part of the infield. And I had to think about Danny Henney. There's Gomez, gets very close to the back of Murafkani's car, and you see he's wrestling with it over the elevation changes. This is where he needs the good exit though, right up towards the safer barrier on the outside line there, and surely this is going to be Gomez's second place as he jinks out from behind Marevkani's car, and Danny Henny trying to make it 3 wide, backs out of it at the last possible second, and Gomez goes around the outside and into second place, just about keeps it out of the barrier there, but Marevkani over the front of Henny's car. Henny is round, he's lost his front nose, and that is going to be a disaster for him, a second drama in as many races. We're going to take another look at it. You see, Henny was very cautious on the way into the chicane. Marevkani was very close on the exit. It looked like he even tagged it, and just met in the middle.
Just a little bit too close for comfort there for Danny. Unfortunately, I think that dreaded word net code, I think in hindsight, I think Danny would have just, will look back at that and maybe think, if I just waited a second or just a touch longer before I went to go for that run. But yes, for the second race in a row, Danny is suffered with damage, and so much so that he's coming into the pit lane to repair. So still a result on the cards for him with a reverse grid still to come, but not ideal. As we mentioned, Bradley Philpott down there getting caught up in the opening melee, and well, this is with Dim, shall we say, for Greg at the moment, as he's all over the back of Spanners, as potentially getting held up there by the lap traffic as it gets out of the way, as Greg looks for a move round the outside as Spanners keeps it tight. But as we saw in the F4 race, being on the outside here isn't too bad, as you position yourself into the inside under braking into that last corner, and very well done. Greg just about, with a bit of rear snap there, keeps it out of the wall and doesn't make the same mistake that he did in the F4 race earlier, and is now leading this F3 race with 12 laps remaining.
Oh, absolutely perfect start to this race for Greg Gomez, recovering the points he lost, but still in a very good position. Of course, came into this event tonight leading the championship by 10 points to Brad Philpott. Would have lost a considerable amount of them in the F4 race, but with the change of fortunes that have happened so far, Gomez is going to be hauling them straight back in as well, and Danny Henny's not going to be doing too much to haul that in either. And I think the Powers are making good progress in 14th and 15th as well, so not moving all the way up the order just yet, but certainly helping out a little bit there. I'm surprised Gomez was able to see Spanners into that chicane. It should have just been 4 floating wheels with the camo livery on Spanners' car. I'm here all night, folks. Just incidentally, Spanners still with the gold class lead. That is being contested with David Hatton in 3rd position overall. There's only 3/10 between them, and then we've got Jeansy in 4th, and then Tim Ellis, Alexander Dobertsberger. They've made great progress in this race. Jose Coy, Miguel Morland, James Gill, and Alexandra Marevkani currently your top 10. But Spanners and David Hatton locking horns here for not only 2nd place overall, but the lead in the gold class category.
Yep, seems like this is going to be the closest battle up front at the moment for the last podium position places. But keep an eye out on Jeansy in P4, only a few seconds back from David and this fight. If Spanners and Hatton start going at it and go side by side for one of these chicanes, Jeansy will be straight all over the back of them. And of course, we have the very fast Tim Ellis close behind, as well, as we'll go on board with James Gill here, making a move on Miguel, or defending from Miguel, sorry, as they head into the chicane down there in P8 at the moment. He is up 8 positions, James, as he had a very good finish in the F4 series. As we see Brad Philpott as well, also down in 21st, so nearly in that reverse pole position. So a good recovery from him thus far after that poor start to this race. But Spanners there is going to go on the defensive pretty soonish, I think, from David. He was very close up behind him, but James here just holding off Miguel as we go back on board with Spanners and on the infield once again, and just holding off David and driving very, very comfortably at the moment, if I must say so, Chris.
Yeah. Meanwhile, race leader Gregoire Gomez doing the fastest lap of the race at 10.039. The gap 2.4 seconds ahead of these two cars here. And Jeansy is right with them now. There's only a second separating these 3 cars fighting over second place. We're on board with the Monster Energy number 32 of David Hatton, the beast that he was nicknamed in the days when he was fighting for the Formula Renault title. Just tagged the wall though on the left-hand side. Seems to have gotten away with it just about. And yeah, a close moment there for our former champion David Hatton, but still it hasn't curbed his run though at all, as he's still challenging for second place towards the final chicane, but not quite close enough. And there we see Jeansy closing in on that battle as well. These three cars separated by nothing at all as Gomez continues to stretch his legs out at front.
Yeah, this is great racing from both of them. You can see David is on the limits, nearly losing it there in the wall, but that is the way. That's the fastest way to go round Charlotte Roval, that is for sure. You need to get as close up to those barriers as possible as we go on board with him now, and it's just, Spanners is just doing enough to avoid David really getting up alongside him. But as we said, Jeansy is now in the tow of David, and David not only needs to look ahead, he needs to look in his rearview mirrors as well and make sure that he makes whatever potential move on Spanners stick, because Jeansy will be straight over it.
Done well. Very close to the wall there for Spanners as we're at the half race distance now, lap 9 of 18, so a lap longer than our F4 race. Still a 22-minute encounter, unlike last season where we had a feature-length race with pit stops and then 2 shorter sprint races. All the 3 races tonight are the same length. Again, however many laps we can squeeze into 22 minutes, and Spanners is really soaking up the pressure here as we see Luke Power making his way through the field, currently in 15th position, trying to make a move on Colton Myers, and successfully making a move on Colton Myers into the last chicane. He's now just 1 place behind his uncle Kyle, and only a couple of seconds back from him at the moment.
Good to see the 2 Powers going at it, but we join back on board with this fight for the podium positions, with Jeansy now closing in on getting ever closer to David Hatton and Spanners. It does seem like the Spanners does have the better of the infield of David, but that really closes up in that last chicane. So let's stay on board with these and see how they get on. With only 8 laps remaining in this race, Greg is increasing his lead, 2.6 seconds ahead of Spanners now. But realistically, Spanners leading the gold class in this race at the moment. His fight is with David, of course, with Jeansy being a guest here this evening. But we know Jeansy is fighty and he loves this car and will have any opportunity that he can take to get one over on Spanners.
I'll tell you what as well, Tim Ellis is only 1.3 seconds back from these guys in 5th place, and last time was nearly 0.4 of a second quicker than Spanners. So he could be arriving on the scene very shortly as well. We just saw a glimpse of him there, that iconic blue and yellow machine just in the back of shot. So they've got to keep an eye on him as well. And we've still got 7 and a bit laps left to run. Back on board with Hatton going round the banking and trying to close in on Spanners here, but not actually making that many inroads as we head towards the bus stop chicane once again. And Spanners tagged the wall though. Spanners on the left-hand side tagged the wall. That's really going to compromise his run. This could be David Hatton's best shot yet at trying to take 2nd place. Navigating some traffic on the right-hand side, but plenty of space up there. And still, even with that poor momentum, Hatton is unable to make the move. He had to pull back into the slipstream as they came back towards the chicane once again. So this is just stout defensive driving from Spanners, and I'm sure Jeansy from behind is going to be giving him the salute as well.
That was very, very fortunate there from Spanners. You saw the paint from the wall fly off there. It was a fair old whack, much more than what David had the few laps previous to it. But you just see the banking here, that with the when you pull out of the tow into that clean air and have to cover more track to overtake the car ahead, it's just not enough in this car. But David is a lot closer now, and he's pulling out of his slipstream, trying to get the drop back, the old NASCAR move where you pull out of the slipstream and swing back down onto the lower section of the oval. But Jeansy here getting very close as he goes very late on the brakes, and Spanners is a little bit wide here and a little bit out of position, and for once David has finally got ahead of Spanners, but Spanners is now tucked up in the toe. Will he have enough to come back into David, into this chicane, and will he be able to hold on to it as Spanners makes a look and pokes his nose down the inside? David has to give him room, and he manages to hold on to that position, and now we have the grudge match of Jeansy and Spanners, but they also have to be wary of the charging Tim Ellis, who is currently up 7 positions in this race. He's also a familiar of the Missed Apex community, who will also look to get one over on Spanners and Jeansy.
Well, I'll tell you what, that NASCAR technique there from David Hatton, chapeau, sir, because it put him in a prime position. He was alongside Spanners going into the bus stop, forced him deep, and that is what ended up making the move stick. And now we've got 2 of the panelists going hammer and toe, Spanners versus Jeansy. Tim Ellis is close right up in on them as well, so we've still got a 3-car battle here. Hatton into the lead of the gold class now as Jeansy draws up alongside, and again Spanners has a compromised exit, but Jeansy not able to take advantage quite as quick, and that's very questionable on the track limits from Spanners there. Oh, they may well have something to say about that, but Jeansy on the inside into the final chicane makes the move and takes 3rd position away from Spanners. Next up in the queue, Tim Ellis.
Yeah, Spanners very much on the limit of track limits there, but unfortunately it didn't do anything in regards to holding Jeansy back as he made the move into the last corner there. And Spanners, after his stout defence against David, is falling back down the pack. He's now going to be in the clutches of Tim Ellis and also Alex Dobertsberger, who has pulled up to this pack as they've been fighting. So Spanners needs to be cautious here that he doesn't lose any more positions. Only 4 laps of racing remaining, but David, that little fight there between Alex and Jeansy has just allowed David to open up a 2-second gap on them. Greg is commanding this win at the moment with a 5.5-second lead over David. But yes, let's see if Spanners is able to get back at Jeansy, or is he going to be looking in the rearview mirrors at Tim Ellis sooner rather than ahead?
Well, we are running out of laps pretty soon, won't we? So, as you mentioned, and Tim Ellis on the back of it. Dobertsberger only 1 second back from these guys as well. And Spanners isn't letting Jeansy out of his sight. Still within half a second as we have 4 laps remaining now in this top 20 reverse grid F3 race. Gregoire Gomez out in the lead, David Hatton in second, but the podium still not fully secure with Jeansy coming under pressure from Spanners having taken that position a lap or so ago. Tim Ellis right in the fight as well, Dobertsberger right with them, and then there is 5 seconds back to James Gill. Jose Coy, Miguel Morland and Alexandros Merivkani, our reverse grid pole sitter, still inside the top 10. Kyle Powers about to break into the top 10 as well in 11th position there. He's put a bit more daylight between himself and Luke Power, who's still down there in 14th place. Philpott has made his way into the top 20 as well. He's in 19th position. That would put him on the front row of the grid for the Super Formula race coming up next. So these are crucial positions here for all of these guys, but we'll keep an eye on this podium battle still for the remaining 3 laps we'll have now once they come across the timing line. And Spanner still sitting there in 4th position.
Yeah, only a few laps remaining. Just want a big shout out to Daniel Snortland, who is up 18 positions this race in P15 at the moment. That is great going in these reverse grid races, and I know all too well how difficult it can be to navigate your way through that many cars and positions. But here we go. Here we have here is Daniel, and he could be making it even more than 18 positions gained, as he's all over the back of Luke Power. Luke struggling a little bit here, a bit more than he did in the F4 race. But if we join up back with those final positions for the podium, is it going to be Jeansy? Is it going to be Spanners here as they are fighting for these last positions. Jeansy actually is now over the back of Hatton. Hatton has had a slight error somewhere, but has allowed Jeansy to close up. And wow, he had a 2.5 second lead on Jeansy, and as much as Jeansy is familiar with the F3 car, I don't think he's that fast to close down as he's going for a move here on the inside. They're side by side here, and there's contact. There's contact. Has this give Spanners the run? Yes, it has. Spanners has slipped up the inside and regained that podium position. Tim has a look as well, and that has really compromised Jeansy's line there. He hit the car of David Hatton. Thankfully, both still able to complete this race. And, well, he also tagged the wall, but Jeansy held off a late charge there from Tim Ellis and could go again with only 2 laps remaining. Wow, Chris.
Amazing stuff. So somewhere on that previous lap, Hatton lost 0.8 of a second to Jeansy. That's what led to all of that happening. And Spanner's now back onto the overall rostrum ahead of Jeansy. A lap and a half left to sort this out. These guys are 9 seconds now behind race leader Gregoire Gomez, who's looking very comfortable, but the positions on the podium are far from settled as Jeansy gets right up behind Spanners going into the bus stop chicane and really compromising his exit as a result of that. And Spanners closing in on Hatton once again. I'm wondering if he's learnt a trick, that NASCAR line that Hatton pulled to take second position away from Spanners. This is for the gold class lead, of course, remember, as well. So class honour up for grabs here, as well as the overall, as we're now on to the final lap of the race. And if Spanners can stick this close to Hatton through the infield section, he will most definitely be in a position to pass either by the time they get down to the bus stop or into the final chicane. But just losing a little bit of momentum there as Hatton sliding the car in front of him through the undulations and over the crests of these hills. And this is the crucial moment as Hatton has been able to build up a bit more of a gap. It's 0.6 of a second as they make their way back onto the banking for the final time. And it looks like Hatton is just going to hang on to second place unless he makes a mistake in these final couple of complexes. Looks very good through the bus stop. He has been pushing his luck there a little bit. Tim Ellis has got through Jeansy as well. But meanwhile, Gregoire Gomez coming over the line. And he takes victory in the F3 race at Charlotte Roval, perfectly making up for his disappointment in the F4 race. And David Hatton does get over the line in second place overall with the gold class victory. Spanners in third position. And what happened to Tim Ellis on the last lap? Because Alexander Dobbelsberger is in fourth place. He managed to get through Jeansy and Ellis there on that last lap. Fantastic. So Ellis comes home fifth with Jeansy in sixth. Hopefully we can grab a word with Greg. In fact, we've got him in the commentary box. Stuffy, over to you.
Greg, great win there. You fought your way through and you never looked back. How was that for you?
Yeah, it was good the last 15 laps or so. I can tell you the first 4 were very, very tense. I know that Alexandros fights like a lion whenever for first or 30th place, so I was very scared when I saw him in first place and had to navigate around that. Very unfortunate what happened to Danny, to be honest. But yeah, good race apart from that.
Good man. Well, you've got the reverse grid now with the Super Formula, so good luck with that. Got a little more few cars to navigate your way through, so good luck.
Thank you.
Greg Gomez extending his championship lead. Here are the results from the reverse grid F3 race. It's Gregoire Gomez for the second time this season on the top step of the podium, but the first time in the F3s. David Hatton takes the gold class as well as his first podium of the season, as the Spanners in second in class. Alexander Dobbelsberger making up a couple of positions right at the end there in fourth, ahead of Tim Ellis and Jeansy. James Gill recovering up to seventh place. Jose Coy and Miguel Morland taking the silver class victory as the championship leader there in ninth place overall. Kyle Power getting himself into 10th position, so he'll start from 11th in the Super Formula race. Alexandros Marevkani, our pole sitter from that race, in 11th position. Then Stephen Williams And Sean Bennett in 13th position, ahead of Daniel Snortland, then Frick Smith and Colton Myers. Adrian Clark, Brad Philpott, 18th position. He will start third for the Super Formula race. Matt Two Rumpets in the top 20 there, starting on the front row of the grid for the Super Formula race, with John Cox taking the honors there. And Luke Power, something happened to him at the ending of that race that dropped him outside, just outside of the reverse grid pole. Sam Harper, Mark Greenhow, Daniel Cook, Steve Rubins in the top 25. And as we saw, disappointing races further down. Danny Henny will start 32nd for the final race of the night after he didn't get going again after that contact with Marif Khani that dropped him out of contention. Super Formula race coming up next. Don't go anywhere.